give it some time to get some people in.
Cool.
There it is.
Awesome.
I just realized this light is casting a really cool shadow in back of me, and that I could like try to do hand puppets or something, just so.
Yeah, you look great.
I expect that now of you.
You can't disappoint the viewers.
No, my are horrible. That's the class I failed at camp.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not very good at it either. All right, we've got a few people in here. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for always tuning into our Positive Mental Attitude sessions with Punk Rock Saves Lives. This week we have our Punk Rock Saves Lives staffer and artist liaison Leland Fallon from Massachusetts, and we've also got Jason Hall of Western Addiction down below me. Super excited to have both of these people, and as always, got myself. You got Dan. I will never get that right.
None of us will. Don't worry.
And we are happy to see everybody. First things first, I do want to give everybody kind of an update on Rob and Tina. They are both home and they're both doing a little bit better. Rob is definitely kind of coming out of the woodworks. Tina's still feeling a little bit rough, but they are keeping up the positivity, and we think that they're going to kick this sooner rather than later. So just please continue to send them all the positive vibes, send them your love. They really, really appreciate it and wish they could be here. And hopefully next week they'll be back with us. Dan, let's start with you. How's Chi-Town?
Chi-Town is calm and getting colder by the day. Just started to hit 40s again, which isn't like it wasn't, but these past 3 days it was like in the 70s, which is insane. And it's been like just beautiful beyond words. And now it's just preparing for a late as hell winter and a fall that never even existed.
Oh.
That's usually how we get it, but we actually had a full month of fall this year, which was kind of nice, but it's definitely just dropping really fast, and that sucks because I still work in a restaurant that can only serve outside. So
Okay.
But it's okay. It's okay. The days are warm, sun is shining. That's what counts. Jason, how's things? How are you handling this week?
I'm okay. I was more stressed out last week, but this week's okay. And actually, after this, I'm going to go to band practice for the first time in months and months and months and months. We just got a new practice space, and they won't let you sing in there, so I can't sing, but the guys can play, and so it's kind of like it's small, but it's something,
Yeah, it'll be like you're the only attendee at a show. Actually, yeah, you're the only person who gets to watch live music right now.
Yeah, that's it. I'll just watch the guys a little bit and see what happens. Could be ugly.
You have to live cam from the shower.
Yeah.
I do. Actually, I sometimes when I prepare for records, I have to sing in weird places, and I'm pretty loud, so I have to go in my car, and I underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. You can drive down there, and so my wife's always like, "You're for sure gonna get arrested one day, and it's gonna look really strange," and it is. But I can't practice anywhere like that loud every night, So that's embarrassing.
Yeah, just finding random places to scream.
That's pretty.
I mean, I do that all the time, not necessarily for the purpose of writing a record or recording, but just because it's nice.
Right into a pillow. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, yesterday I screamed in the parking lot of the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I just drove by and it was an empty parking lot, and I was like, "All right, then this is what's happening."
It does feel okay.
I had a letter from a Jehovah's Witness trying to bring me to that side, so it was just kind of.
You're not getting a letter. You're getting a walk to the door.
Yeah. So it was just weird how that must have already been sent before I decided to do that, but it was a.
Maybe they heard your angelic voice and they were like, "Come on in."
Something, yeah. Something. I feel like I definitely need to follow up on it though, so I'll keep you updated on that.
Okay.
Leland, how's the East Coast?
It is it's beautiful. It's really weird. It started to get. I mean, first of all, we had a really long summer and that was crazy and unexpected. And then it hit fall and like right around late August, you know, September, when all the trees change color, and it's real beautiful here. None of them did, and the sun just kept cooking us. And then we had about 4 days of fall, and then we had our first snow like a week ago.
Mm.
And then it melted, and the last 4 days it's averaged about 70 degrees, which is like, I don't know what's going on.
That
So,
sounds like Albuquerque the last couple of weeks, which
Does
we
it?
always have really like schizophrenic weather. And so it's just kind of normal. Like 2 weeks ago, we got more snow than we have in years, and then it was 75 again, like
Oh,
right
wow.
after.
Usually
And
when
then
it starts snowing here, you know, it doesn't stop. You know, you got to get the shovel out and the snow blower out and blaze a path. So it's been, but you know, but it's been really pretty, and the leaves have all been changing colors on different trees at different times. And I don't know, I don't know if that's because climate change is a myth or not, but you know, I'm kidding.
maybe just because it's the first time you've been able to take a moment to like watch it happen.
I think so. I never noticed it happening, and other people have to remind me. And living in Arizona for all those years, of course, there's no seasons. It's just summer and then almost summer, you know? So being in a place, oh man, the leaves are changing, and then there's snow, and then there's spring. It's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. But yeah.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you.
To kick things off, I kind of want to jump right into this because Jason mentioned like singing in weird places. I happen to be privy to information about Tremulous being recorded at Katy Perry's house. So I've been wanting to ask about this forever. So how did that come to be?
This is true. It was her former residence, where she lived with Russell Brand. And it happened because our producer, our friend Joey Cape from Lagwagon, he has a childhood friend who happens to live in the house now, and he started a studio, and they kind of wanted to test it out a little bit. So it was, you know, Joey was already doing us a favor by helping, you know, with the record and giving us free studio time, because they're testing the studio and working the bugs out. So we recorded at the house, beautiful house too. It has a nice outdoor, it has a crazy hot tub, like pool, and like those lion's heads that are kind of spitting water out, you know?
Oh, nice.
Oh wow, cool.
And then a hot tub too. I mean, everywhere we went, we were like, do you think Katy Perry was like hanging out here? Or do you think Russell Brand was hanging out here? But it's just like this stunning house. I think it's in Los Feliz, but that's how it happened. But it was nice. I mean, we slept there and everything, and we never usually like sleep at the studio, because we always record close to home, but we'd sleep in the same room that we tracked in. And I was actually working during the day. We have offices in Los Angeles where I work. And so I would drive, you know, super early in the morning, come back, work all night, sleep in the studio, and keep going. It was a wonderfully nice, super nice place.
That's awesome. That's just kind of insane.
Amazing.
I remember when you guys announced that you were putting out another record after, you know, so many years. I don't know if anybody who's watching remembers when we had Chicken on, but I mentioned that I discovered Western Addiction because of your split with New Mexican Disaster Squad.
Yeah.
And then there was, you know, not a lot after that for a long time. And then
we had quite a hiatus.
Yeah. And then Katy Perry's house is, I guess, you know, probably one of the better places to kick it back.
Call this back.
That record was phenomenal.
Thank you.
And Frail Bray is great.
Thank you.
There was spitting water into the pool. That's just amazing. That's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something. Like
it is really nice to like have nice surroundings for the studio, because we've recorded a couple other places. In the last studio where we made Frail Bray, that was really nice too. Atomic Gardens in Oakland, beautiful studio. But we've recorded at Motor Studios too, and that's so it's all right. It's like the colors inside Motor Studio are so, you know how there's color theory and things should go together and like look right. The colors are just like no and no, so it kind of makes you feel stress, you know. I work with like a lot of designers at work, so I've kind of gleaned a lot. And then just so now when I see, it's the same way when you see music in a movie and you're like, this is all wrong, or you can't focus on it, you know, like it really bothers you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Katy Perry's house was quite nice.
Well, I'm glad you got to start off, the reunion on like some vibes of like correctness.
Yes,
and
it was nice.
And maybe you were more prepared for Motor Studio after that.
Yes, maybe.
Do you think that maybe the feeling and like the color theory and all that, do you think that contributes at all to like the differences between Frail Bray and Tremulous, or was that something that you'd already kind of planned on?
I mean, it how you feel outside of just making the music, it matters a lot to me. Even like my workspace where I'm at home, I have to feel okay around me. I have to have the right colors. I have to have the right furniture. I have to have the right amount of stuff in here. And not, I'm like a minimalist. But it does affect it. Actually, Tremulous was really stressful to make because we made it broken up. And I don't like being in the studio anyways because I'm more of like a feelings person versus a really good technical musician. So the other guys are really good musicians. So they like it. They're like twisting all the knobs, and I'm more of like an ideas kind of feeling person. And so when you're in the studio, you're like, damn, I'm not very good at music. And so it does help to have like really nice colors, really nice studio. At the studio that we just recorded at, Atomic Garden in Oakland, the guy who runs it, Jack Shirley, he had it designed by this guy. I can't remember the name of the studio designer, but he makes famous studios all over the world. But Jack just told him like, I want it this way. And it was very simple and very, Spartan and just what you need, but beautiful, beautiful colors, beautiful layout. And my personal being kind of aligned more with Jack's production style. He's like a really professional person that knows about our world, which is, I know that's kind of strange sometimes, but he's like really buttoned up and really like, he's not a party guy. He's like, this is when we record, this is when we're done. And then you guys go home. You're not here to party and hang out. And I'm like that too. I only do like one of the three things you can do in rock and roll, and it's the rock and roll part, which is boring to some people. But Jack's kind of like that too. So I really liked it this time in the studio.
Good. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how have things been? What's it like releasing a record, especially only your second LP since coming back, and then not being able to tour? Like, do you have anything kind of planned out for when you can take that on tour, or are you just going to write a new record before then? Like, or are you just kind of waiting?
It's the worst time to release a record in a century.
Yeah.
We tried to pause our record too. We asked the label if we could pause it, and it was already like too far in the system to where you turn in everything about 3 months before. And so this is like, February-ish, end of January. And if we were a humongous band, we could have probably paused it. But once you have everything in the system, it costs the label money to pull that stuff out of the system. So we're like, we don't want to do that. But I was telling other bands, I'm like, just hold your record. Don't do anything, because the pandemic just like ate our record. And it's fine. You also feel guilty too, because like people are passing away and like you have to stay home and not be sick. And I'm like, hey, here's my rock and roll record. It doesn't feel right to promote it a lot. And I did a lot of interviews for this record, like upwards of like 60 interviews. And that was really nice. But there was always a part of it where I was like, I feel a little bit guilty. But you have all these plans. We were going to play with Bad Religion. We're going to play with Propaganda. We're going to go to Europe and play festivals. We never played on festivals before, like big ones. And all that's gone. And then everything moving forward is just kind of gone. And so I'm also like a pretty, I don't waste a lot of time as a person. Like I'm kind of like a pain in the ass. I'm always going. So I just started making new songs, and which doesn't seem smart or right, but I like making songs. I like thinking about songs. I like trying to figure out why people like songs. In fact, I listened to a lot of music during my job, like all day long. I listened to tons and tons and tons of music. And I just happened upon the best-selling record of all time list. Have you ever looked at that list? It's
yeah,
really,
actually, it's been a while.
So interesting. It's like it's Thriller and AC/DC's on there, but also
Dire
like
Straits.
yeah, Dire Straits. The Bodyguard soundtrack is on there. Like Shania Twain, and the dudes in the band make fun of me all the time. They're like, "Why do you like listen or to stuff you don't like?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just trying to kind of I want to know the secret, you know? Like I want to know what makes people like a song." And I mean, there's ways to tell. I think I can tell when a song's decent. And I've had like Fat Mike told me, he goes, just look at the crowd. If their bodies are moving, they like it. If they're not, they're not. And it's true. And it's like that metric. And if a song kind of bubbles in the universe over time, it's the reason why you hear like Hey Ya by Outkast in a car commercial right now. It's like, that's a really good song and it's never going away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Right.
the new single by Bieber, do you know it? I don't know it. It's gonna go away. And so time is this nice metric of it too. So I'm always trying to figure out the secrets of songwriting. You wouldn't know it from what I do or what I can do. You know what I
From
mean?
like being in a hardcore punk band. Yeah.
But I do take all that stuff and I put it through. It just gets fed into the Western Addiction machine, and then it just comes out as something gross and loud, you know. But all those ideas come from other songs and other bands and other ideas and things I hear.
Jason, what's your have you had a chance to talk to Europe or talk to the other places you were playing about potentially 2021 or 2022? And I asked that because I mean I had 2 festivals that I had to rebook in the province of Quebec for, you know, everything that happened in 2020 is now going to happen in 2021. But our fingers are crossed for that because
Yeah.
course hospitals are overrun. You know, is 2021 going to happen either? And I'm not trying to bring you down. I'm hoping, because you were saying we're finally going to get out there and we're finally going to get to play to these killer audiences in Europe and other places. I hope that can still happen. You know, I still.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind enough to put our shows to 2021. I honestly don't even know if those happen. And so it's okay. Like I kind of see it as like, unless I'm there and I go out in the crowd a lot and I hug people and you know, it's not sanitary at all. You know, it's like you get really close to people and I'm sort of like a kind of a clean, germy person, but not when we play. Like I'm like a dirty dog when we play, like in terms of just sweating and living like a dog on the road, you know, not like a dirty dog, but you know, like you're dirty when you tour. It's just your hands are dirty, your fingernails are dirty, and you sleep in the weirdest spots. And that doesn't bother me. Actually, being in a band taught me how to be a dirty person, if you know what I mean.
Having seen you live, I'm actually super shocked by everything you're saying right now.
It is people
up in it.
People say that all the time. When the number one thing people say after they see us play, we're like, I can't believe that was you, because I'm just a regular kind of boring person, I think. And but when we play out, I like shows to be like really fun, and my favorite shows are like when it's right on the edge of danger, where it's like I don't want people to get hurt, but I want it to be like, uh-oh, you know. And that's when I'm excited at a show, like when I'm seeing Dillinger Escape Plan or something. I'm like, oh boy, what's gonna happen? And I want people to so I don't think it's like an aggressive thing. Like people have tried to punch me and stuff before, but I want it to be fun and happy and wild. So yeah, I guess the question you asked, sorry, was all the shows are gone. I mean, it's okay. It's like, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I want to go in the crowd and I want to hug people, and people hug you all the time after the shows. They're so glad. Even our band, we're not huge, and people are so excited to see you, and little kids are excited to see you, and they ask you questions. It's so cool. And I want to be able to talk to them and hang out, you know, and feel comfortable.
Yeah. I actually used to tell Tony all the time after seeing you live, I was like, I want to see Propaganda and Western Addiction, and then it was going to happen, and I was going to be in the Bay when it happened, and now it's not.
Yeah,
that was probably like the show I was most bummed about.
Oh, the guys were so upset. They were, and our bass player Mitch too. He, you know, joined our band about 2 years ago. He's played a lot of shows with other bands, but he was so excited for that show, and I felt bad for him too. And we've played with them before, but I don't know, now that I'm a little older, and I don't have to play guitar, I enjoy playing a lot more. It's not so stressful. I used to be really stressed out because, it's hitting the notes and like, oh my gosh. And then now I'm like, this is supposed to be super fun. And it is fun, and I don't have to play guitar, and I can go insane, and that makes it a pretty fun experience.
I never got the chance to see Propaganda except for one time. For some
Yeah.
reason, either they weren't touring or they just didn't come to the place that, the town that we were in, or I was on the road or I was doing something with somebody else. But I remember getting to see them play at this tiny club called the Paragon in Tucson, Arizona. And I want to say it was 1995 or 96. And all the, the original songs. It might have even been their first tour, maybe not, but it was the first one with and then they came with Guttermouth, and there was,
Whoa.
and I think the club held about 300 people, but in those days it wasn't Facebook. It was like, oh, here's a flyer on a telephone pole. Hopefully people see it.
Yeah.
And, it was the best show. And for some reason, I've been wanting to see them again ever since. And it's been 20 years and I haven't had the chance. So hopefully
it's hard.
with them, 2021, 2022, I'll get a chance to make it out for that.
I got to see them in like 2012, I think. I don't know, it was a long time ago, and I haven't been able to see them since, and I was going to see them twice in May, and I was excited.
Yeah.
Because they were going to be on Punk Rock Bowling. I was going to see them in the Bay, because I was going to be out in the Bay with Anti-Flag for a little bit, and so mad.
I was going to see them on the Victory Lap tour with Iron Chick at Metro in Chicago, but little opportunities pass.
Ugh. That would have been great. That would have been great. All of my dream tours, honestly, actually involved Propaganda. Like Propaganda in this band and Propaganda in this band.
Yeah.
So I was like, Propaganda, Western Addiction, War on Women was kind of like what I wanted.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I would love it.
That was my mood last year.
Lineup.
Yeah.
That'd be so great.
I just need to be the person who makes like tour packages happen. Yeah, whatever I want.
I'd love that.
But Jason, you know now what I want out of you.
I'm in. I've signed me up. I'm ready.
Yeah. And I do have to say, like, honestly, getting Frail Bray in the mail in the middle of, just being stuck at home was super, super awesome. So I really don't think that it was.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Not that time. We made a joke with another band not too long ago. I feel like with everybody who's now writing more music after releasing a record during quarantine and not being able to play that record, but now writing new music because there's nothing else to do, everyone's going to have too many new records. And then we're not going to be able to see the songs that we used to love seeing. And I think everybody just needs like a multi-discography night. Like your entire tour has to be like 2 records worth of music.
Yeah.
Next time.
I want to see what people that's the ultimate thing. You see what people react to. Like the first time we played Frail Bray, like we had big arguments about that song specifically because it has like this big rock part in the end, like a AC/DC part kind of. Mm-hmm. And we were like, I'm like, you guys, we're always trying to be like ride the line of being like, it shouldn't be too predictable chords or too much like classic rock and roll or butt rock or whatever. But I was like, let's just try this thing. And I'm like, I kind of have a feeling people will like move to it a little bit. You know what I mean? and we played that song at this art show, and there was this drag queen right up in the front. And as soon as we hit that riff, they were dancing like crazy. And I was like, see guys, right there. You can't deny it.
Yeah, that is probably one of the better ways you could measure that, honestly.
It is. If you put the Beatles on to some babies in a room, they're gonna move. If you put Botch on, they might not as much, but you know what I mean? There's like things that they're hardwired into your body. And so I'm searching for those things to try to make people move a little bit.
I like that just as a philosophy. I feel like that's what we're all kind of trying to do with the whole year, and what, with us trying to sort of just redesign the entire basis of the nonprofit to be just completely online right now and all that. Everyone's just trying to figure out how to make people move. And
yeah, it happens in other art forms too. Like I see a lot of dance because my daughters dance. So I've seen a lot of dance and a lot of recitals, and I didn't understand anything about it. But now I've watched a lot, and you watch these moments where the audience just goes like this and starts clapping. Like they can't control themselves. And so there's these points, and like when you're seeing a show and there's just this ripping part, you're like, oh my gosh, and you clap. Like, how do you get to those points? And then in dance, when all the kind of kids or like dancers line up and they're kind of like doing a kick together, and they're kind of doing this like the thing where they go in a circle like this and they're doing kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that happens, people go nuts. And I'm like, that's like one of the magic moments. And it happens in all forms of art, and so you're on this chase for that feeling all the time. At least I am in music. And I haven't found it all the way, but I'm trying.
Well, I mean, I think you guys have a lot of magic moments. So
thanks.
I don't know if my opinion counts, but I think you've hit it a number of times actually.
Thanks.
Leland,
I try.
Leland's seen literally everybody live ever. When have you noticed? What are the magic moments in like punk shows? What would you put them at?
Gosh, in punk shows?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question. I feel like those moments can occur at any given time in a show for someone, for someone's favorite song, or a song that reminds them of their favorite song, or a new song that maybe their friend told them about and they haven't heard yet, or they've only heard a few bars of, and they're all of a sudden getting to see it live, and they're like, oh my God, holy shit, yeah, running in and, crowd surfing, mosh, and doing whatever they got to do. I feel like that happens definitely in people's favorite songs, but also feels like I feel like it happens in the moments, Jason, you were just talking about. Hey, we're going to try something new here, and maybe we haven't done it before, but conceptually we're going for this, and it's going to be awesome. And then to see have that, that reaction is really cool. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the arts is that can happen in punk rock, that can happen, hip hop, that can happen in dance, that can happen, like you're saying, when the Rockettes start kicking, or
you're like,
there's
this is crazy
that everybody from 8 years old all the way up to 90 years old is all going to jump out of their chair, at the end of Hamilton, or like that, or a particular really amazing moment where just creativity that people are in awe of is just on full display. And I think amazing things about the arts in general. But as far as punk rock goes, sorry, I'll shut up.
No, please don't.
Please don't. Oh my gosh.
As far as punk rock goes, I mean, I get that feeling. Obviously the no-brainers are bro him. I mean, come on, Pennywise is amazing, and everybody knows when that bass, when Randy hits into that bass line, that it's just gonna blow the roof off the place and the thing. And
honestly, as somebody who I'm gonna get grilled for this.
Rancid. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, as somebody who does not like Pennywise, which I'm gonna get grilled for, I'm so sorry. I loved them when I was in high school. I loved them the first 4 times I saw them, but I noticed that, I mean, mostly for me, it's like the fans that they have accrued now, and that's fine. I can get over that. But it's 90% of the times I've seen Pennywise, it's been because I've been forced to. Like, they're on every single tour, and they're on every single festival, and I'll be across the field. I'm still listening to Pennywise. I'm like, God, it's like I felt like I can't escape it. But bro, him always just warms my heart no matter what. I'll talk shit all day. I'm like, God damn it, no, I have to go on bro him. I have to. So that is one of them, sure.
I feel like it's that way. I mean, if Pennywise isn't your thing or whatever, because I know people got some people got, and especially and it happens. I've noticed in particular towns, because I've seen Pennywise in San Francisco and and in Oakland, and then I've seen them play in in Bend in Oregon, and I brought them to Canada to play Music for Cancer. So I mean, it really depends on the concert itself. The sort of bro element of, if I go enjoy this song or I enjoy this band, I'm going to get punched in the face by a guy wearing a frat t-shirt, isn't the same in every town.
It happens to me so many times at Pennywise shows. I think that's why I have this aversion now. I love Jim Lindbergh. I love the moment where they bring all, pretty much the entire crowd up on the stage. I'm like, this is so much fun. Why do I not want to be here? Struggle I have in my head every time.
I feel like it's that way also with Rancid, and then the no-brainer for me is also also Flogging Molly, who they're dear friends, and I love them all to death. Right. But I think it's really interesting that when you see somebody jamming out on a stage, in particular for Flogging Molly, for me it's the song Black Friday Rule. I think it's really interesting that when they play that live and they're all going into their different parts and the crowd is just going nuts, that like I was watching their 20-year, kind of anniversary thing they did with Joe Sib for the Swagger. And I thought it was interesting that so many of them all at once said, this is my favorite song to play, because the drummer has a chance to shine, and the guitarist and everybody with their different instruments all has a part to play in that song that just makes it epic. And I think the draw there is it just pulls everybody in, because there's this, I don't know, it's a camaraderie that I think only exists in that type of music. So
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
rare to come across a song that shines in all instruments without it being one instrument in the front and all the instruments in the back. Like
Right.
if you're doing a drum solo or a bass solo, it's rare to find a one song for a band where everybody shines at once and the whole crowd knows it. And that's definitely one of them for them.
Right.
But I feel like that's also what people hated about ska. It's just like when every member would get their solo, every member would get their moment, and like we're all going nuts. And I think that's probably what killed ska, though, too. So it's kind of interesting seeing it in different.
Oh, ska's not dead. Come on.
It's not. It's not.
That's my first show ever.
I have a specials mask. Like, I'm not even kidding you.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It's awesome. But I think that was, it's weird now going to a ska show or a ska band opening for, a reggae band or whatever, because it's kind of like where they fit in, at least in Albuquerque. And then, you do the whole like finger solos for every single, all 9 members. And that's just such a moment that I remember when I was younger being like, this is awesome. And now it's just like, everyone's looking at me and like the other 3 of us who are enjoying this as like psychopaths.
But Jason, I have to hear the song you were talking about with the drag queens just rocking out to, because that's freaking awesome. I haven't heard the song yet, but I was totally picturing just like the power metal solo in Stoke and the Neighbors, or something, just like, and everyone's like, yes, Anyway.
Yeah.
I like the moments too where there are bands when a band will kind of pay homage to somebody else, not as in necessarily like a cover, but one of my favorite moments to see, because the first time I saw it, I was actually filming this part of the song, not knowing it was coming, but when Refused throws Slayer in the middle of Deadly Rhythm.
Really?
Like every time it gets me, and every time it's just like mind blown. Like, oh my God, and I know it's coming now, but it's still just, it's there.
I love that when you recognize those little things. The Smoking Popes play Rambling Rose by MC5, and I love it every single time I hear it. It's just such a good riff. We put little nuggets in ours too. We have some Agent Orange lyrics in one of our songs, and you just sneak them in a little bit,
I love that you brought up the Smoking Popes, because I grew up in their hometown.
Oh, really? They're one of my favorites. I love them so much.
They're phenomenal. I've seen Josh and all of them play at local little venues before with some friends' bands, and I grew up with Destination Failure on repeat, obviously, like anybody else.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's like a band.
Is that always intentional, or is it sometimes that you just love somebody so much that when you're in the creative process, it just comes in and you don't realize it?
I don't know. That guy can sing like an angel.
Yeah.
It's and all. I like that they're brothers too. There's something about siblings together, and I don't know. He's just such a great singer, and I also like. I think they're one of the great bands that never quite made it, but almost made it. There's all these bands that almost popped, like Jawbreaker and Old 97s, but they still make fantastic songs. And actually, when I worked at the label, I worked at Fat Records for 11 years too. I think there was a point where we wanted to work with them too, and some people were like, they're not like the normal Fat Records or heavy hardcore band. I'm like, dude, good songs are good songs are good songs. Like, it was right when they released that "If You Don't Care" song. I don't know if you don't care, I don't care. I don't know. It was late in the career, but it was like, and actually Mike's pretty good at that too. He's like, a good song's a good song, is a good song. Because when you work at a label, you want to sign bands that are like, they want to go on the road, they want to live the life, they want to be like firing on all cylinders at all times. And sometimes bands can't do that when they're like a little older. So it didn't work out, but it was pretty bummed. They're one of my favorites.
Same.
Yeah, I would have actually really liked to see them on Fat Rack. I think that would have rounded it out a little bit. Because I think right now, especially, there's so much like punk adjacency going on where not everything is necessarily sounding like it had to in the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, you can be 100% Americana or bluegrass and still honestly be more in the punk scene than anything else. And it's kind of, and I've really enjoyed seeing labels kind of reaching out and kind of expanding their horizons to kind of include that.
I agree. I still float them bands all the time because I text with them and I even sent them a band this week. I'm like, watch this band. There's something happening here. I always say, like, reach out to them. I'm like, don't sign them or anything, but just say, hey, I like your songs. Let's talk in the future. And I sent him a band just this week. It was pretty funny.
Who'd you send him?
I heard this band called Necra. It's a hardcore band with I sort of like witchy vocals, like really screechy female vocals. And I heard 2 songs. I was like, there's some, I feel like I can feel things. I know when you listen to it, it's just like straightforward, aggressive hardcore. And you're like, there's nothing new about this. It's been done a million times. And I don't know if you guys follow it, but there's always like hardcore band flavor of the month, which I'm not saying that to be rude to them at all. Like I like all these bands, but it's like a few weeks ago, it was that band, starts with a G, Guild or something, and then another week it was that band Soul Glow. It's like there's these like bands, you know what I mean? It's cool though, but I feel like, why are we cycling through these so fast? Can't they like stay around and like people enjoy them? Like, what do you have to go right to the next hardcore band? And this was like the band coming up. I was like, ooh, this band's kind of interesting. It's like Nekra. And I was like, this is pretty cool. There was also this band from Oakland too. I actually tried to get them on our record release show before it got canceled. They're called Kiss. Khiis. And it's a female hardcore band, and they just ripped. And it took me forever to get a hold of them because they would not write me back. And then they ended up, they don't do shows anymore, but they even made like Pitchfork's top 10 like hardcore records for last year, and I never even heard of it. I think Bandcamp right now is like, I'm always looking for filters of music. I listen to so much, and I find the right filters to tell me the right thing. And lately, I feel like Pitchfork and Stereo Gum are like a little wobbly, and that's fine because there's probably not people staffed there. But Bandcamp and like Bandcamp Daily, I go on there every day and I like kind of check something out, and I don't like it all, but somebody there is like listening and going, check out this cool thing, It's kind of a nice filter. And I also listen to the radio station KEXP in Seattle. It's my favorite radio station. They have the best country show. They have the best metal show. The best metal show I've ever heard. It's called Seek and Destroy. It's on midnight on Saturday nights. I even text with the host sometimes because I'm like a normal, like a fan person. You know what I mean? Which is weird. And I thought about that the other day because I had to write out my top 10. And I used to write letters to labels and bands when I was a kid. And I still do it. I just do it now by direct messaging people. And I probably think people think that's kind of weird sometimes, but I love it when people say like, I really liked what you did. Or like we were in IKEA a few months ago and some dude came up to me. He's like, hey man, are you in Western Addiction? And my little daughter's like, hey, that weird dude left your band or something. But it was so nice. I like say, what's your name? I talk to them. And I know that sounds sort of lame, but it's like, I like telling people like, oh, I liked your record. That's really cool. I send messages all the time. People don't write me back. That's fine. But I want them to know,
That's awesome. Definitely like the positivity and
the
love that we need to see in the world for sure.
It's funny because like I listen to the country. When I say country music, I mean like, I don't mean like modern country pop. I mean like real country, real Americana. And it's funny, it has all these parallels to punk too. It's like you got these people that are not on the radar, complete shredders. They're living like dogs, touring the country, and they're playing like Hank Williams Sr. Style songs, and I like that. I mean, Johnny Cash is my favorite singer of all time. So
Yeah.
I heard this guy on the KEXP Country Show. It's called Swingin' Doors, and it's another one of those shows where like I'm like, somebody knows what they're doing picking these songs, and it turns out the host of that is the program director of the whole station with like a secret name. And so I heard this guy in there called Jesse Daniel, and I liked his record. I was like, this is kind of cool. I'm going to send this guy a message. And I sent him a message, and he was an old punk from Santa Cruz. He knew about Good Riddance. He knew about all the bands. He knew about our band. But it was just kind of funny how these worlds kind of like shockwave out. And he was so nice. And I put his record in my top 10. And I just turned my top 10 into the label that just a few days ago. But it was kind of cool. Like that, I guess that relates to the show more about being positive and really appreciating music more in my life now, you know?
That's awesome. I can't believe it's already time for top 10s.
I love top 10 season. It's my favorite time. I get ready all year.
Top 10s. Every year I try to write one and I get so stressed out that I just give up. And I'm like, and then I think about it like in the middle of the next year, just like, wow, I really want to talk about how much I love these like 10 records from last year, but I missed the boat.
You got to do it. You got to have top 10 season ready. And the best part is when all the publications come out with their top 10s, I kind of watch all the top 10s too. And I know they're all full of crap because they never match up. I mean, they should probably match up a little bit, you know, but you kind of take all these things from all these different places, and then you get all these records. There's like 3 to 5 that you hadn't heard over the year. And you're like, whoa, this is cool. I hadn't heard this. I don't know. I love top 10 season. Sorry.
It's funny you were talking about country, because I literally have, like, I have 2 hats in rotation for like my bald head, and one of them is my BLM hat, and the other is a Waylon Jennings fan club hat.
Yeah.
And but that's it's one of the things I love about the you know, the crossover there is that I've never had a punk rocker in any vein come over to my house and be surprised that I was listening to Johnny Cash or to Sturgill Simpson or to, I mean, all these, all these people. I definitely feel like there's some shared love there.
Oh, Sturgill's my number 1 record of the year. If you want to see a modern day punk, that man is a modern day punk. He does exactly what he wants. He doesn't listen to anyone. He'll make a rock record. He made a country soul record. He's won a Grammy. And then at the Country Music Awards, he busked out front with like an open guitar case. Like, screw these people. Like, they don't recognize what I'm doing, and I hate them, and I don't want to see Carrie Underwood, you know? And so you look for these universalities, I guess, in music, and he's one of them. A song is a song is a song. If it has distortion on it, it makes it a rock song. If it doesn't, but when a black metal dude is playing like tremolo picking, like, and then Sturgill Simpson's mandolin player is playing a mandolin, and it's the same exact thing. Yeah. One dude just looks like death. One person looks like a country person. It's all the same stuff, but it's just these different formats. I take all those and I put them into Western Addiction secretly, and I don't tell the guys.
That's super cool. And they deserve to know anyway, do they? No.
No, they do, but you have to be really careful about what you call it. So, for example, in our on our new record, we have this song called "Rose's Hammer," and there was a part where Tony's like, "I think I'm going to do this kind of cool tremolo picking thing, like really fast back and forth." And he goes, "I think it would sound pretty cool." And I was like, "Oh, you should try that." And I looked at Chad, because Chad likes metal too. I'm like, "This is black metal. Don't tell the guys, because they don't like some formats of music."
Right.
But it's the same thing. And Tony did it, and it ripped, and it was beautiful. And I was just smiling while I was singing. I was telling Chad, I'm like, "This black metal right now, it's happening."
As much as Tony does not listen to black metal at all.
No, he hates it.
I'm loving the story right now, and I'm absolutely making fun of him immediately after this.
And Ken too, like Ken likes certain types of music, or they're actually smarter because they don't have the patience to listen to things they don't like. But I like to like soak it all in, and I like to Like the first time I ever saw Sound of Music, my little niece watches Sound of Music. Like she watched it a million times. And there's a part, have you ever seen it before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know the part where Julie Andrews is like, here's how you make a song. You take this note, this note, this note, this note, and she's like mixing them up. And I just stopped in the living room. I was like, whoa. Her name's Charlie, my little niece. And I'm like, Charlie, what did that lady just say? And she's like, it's how you make a song, Uncle Jay. And I was like, no way. And it is. And I know that sounds so dumb, but it's the way you mix notes around. Yeah. And then once you get the right mixture of notes, and then you're singing the right melody over that mixture, that's where the magic happens. But I was kind of a blockhead and I wasn't seeing it in terms of Sound of Music, but now I totally do. And so listening to those top records that I mentioned earlier, like the Bodyguard soundtrack, one of the biggest selling records of all time was the Oklahoma soundtrack, the play Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I listened to some of those today. I was like, damn, these are nuts. The vocal melodies are nuts. There's some Not Me Too songs on there too, by the way. I mean, it's like 50s modernism, but I'm like, ooh, these are bad. Like, you shouldn't be saying these things about a lady, But
what happens?
Yeah, you take all these things, and that's what music is. It's everybody borrowing from everybody. I don't even know if it's borrowing. Some people borrow more than others, but so for example, I also listened to Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell today. And because that's the number 3 record of all time. And it blew my mind. I'm like, what? Why is this? Why? And I heard a Green Day part in there. I heard a part from maybe it was like 3 records ago, but I'm like, ooh, this is where Billy got this part. Like, you hear these nuggets in everything. I even embarrassingly, I will say, I listened to a little bit of the Shania Twain record because I'm like, how did this sell 30 million records? And it was all Tom Petty. It was all Tom Petty riffs. It was all Tom Petty parts. And it's kind of cool to listen back. I also make these things. Sorry, I'm probably talking too much.
I'm loving this.
You're
I
fine.
make these playlists on, and I they're the best songs from a band. So I'll tackle the Rolling Stones one day, or I'll tackle the Beatles one day. And so this last week I did the Beatles, and that's psychotic. But you go through their entire catalog. You don't take live songs. You take some covers if they're good, and then you make a best of Beatles. And that doesn't mean the hits. It means what I have in my mind as the metrics of what the best songs are. And it was amazing how many. I was like, that's the Shins. That's this band. Here's the Decemberists. You know what I could hear all these bands from them, and I know that's a no-brainer, but it's kind of amazing. And so I kind of tried to do that, and that's why I listened to Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell today. Don't tell anyone.
I feel like I don't even have enough time to listen to all the music that I do like.
Yeah.
So I'm very impressed by your ability to just find so many hours in the day to even have patience to listen to what you don't like.
I mean, I have a weird job. I make names for a living. I make names for products and services and companies. And I have to I think of ideas all day. And so I have to be alone, and I can't listen to certain things. I can't listen to hip hop because I like to hear the lyrics, and I'm like, this is messing me up. I can't listen to podcasts, but I can listen to every other genre of music at the same time. For some reason, my brain will let me do that. And so I listen to hours and hours and hours of music, and I have a schedule set up. And sometimes I get bored, and I try to, and what happened today where I accidentally listened to Shania Twain.
I feel like I honestly feel like there's worse things to listen to.
I mean, I want to know the context. The hard part is whatever age you are, it's hard to tell the context of why it was big. Because I was like, why the hell is Meatloaf so huge? But I was like, oh, this is probably the Hamilton of the day. And it's like when bands are going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now, you can gauge them because you lived them. But I can't tell you how big Jethro Tull was. And I don't know if Uriah Heep was that big. I don't know. Were they big? But if somebody's like Britney Spears is going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, oh, I understand why. It's like it was this cultural thing that I happen to live through and I can measure it. But old bands I can't measure, and so I try to figure that out.
Yeah, I find myself wondering which of the musicians of our time will end up in 50 years being in the Hall of Fame. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you said earlier, like Justin Bieber, like his single I might never hear it. It might not survive time. Is with him being kind of one of the biggest artists out there right now. Is that something that will survive the test of time?
What's the Hall of Fame is called the Hall of Fame for a reason. It's not the Hall of Quality. It's not the Hall of Goodness. It's fame. And one really hard thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it's hard to tell what's big now because there's so many things. Or I don't, that's one thing I can never tell. I'm like, I don't know what's big now. And I listen to a lot of music. And sometimes somebody comes on Saturday Night Live. I'm like, I've never heard of this person. How is it possible that I have never heard of this person? And I follow music more than anyone I know. That's one thing. And I don't know if like regional scenes happen anymore. You know how like when you're reading about music, you're like, oh, this is Minneapolis. This is Athens, Georgia. This is the Bay Area sound. I'm like, I don't even know if that exists anymore. Like, can it?
Or I'll just assume where somebody's from because of what it sounds like. And then I find out that I was wrong and I get kind of offended. Then I'm like, why are you making music that sounds like that then? And it's just kind of, it's a whole thing.
Am I supposed to be talking about more life-affirming things than music?
No,
I can talk about those things too.
But we are actually at just about an hour. That kind of flew by fast. So
that was solid.
We can talk about those things if you want to. I prepared for that too. Sorry.
Well, no, that's awesome. I think this was honestly, I think what we all needed today was just to let an hour fly by.
I like music, and I like exposing people to music, and music's for everyone all the time. And sometimes people are a little scared to tell me things because they know I listen to so much. I'm like, no, dude, it's for everyone. And I listen to some horrible bands. Like I loved Poison. I thought Poison was so awesome when I was 17. But it doesn't matter. Right. Because it's like your body's trying to make your way into like whatever loud rock is. And so I listen to Poison. I listen to Cinderella. And I'm like, I never shame people. I'm like, these are ways for you in. I'm like, it's going to be great when you bail Poison, but trust me. So it's for everyone. And it's like, in terms of what your show is about, like there's three things that I do to make myself feel better. It's music is always like, even when my kids are having a problem, I'm like, just listen to some bands. Music always helps. Doing something for someone else helps. That helps you make you feel better, and exercise makes you feel better. And I'm kind of like a recent exercise person. I'm not like a gym selfie people, or I don't have any clothes or anything. I hate that stuff. But I was like, damn, it really like helped my life, like later in life, especially being a singer. And I don't like lift weights, and I'm a terrible runner. I'm like a dying mule, but I exercise every day to kind of like clear my brain, you know? And actually before making this record too, I kind of had like a health scare, like a nervous, like I thought I had a stroke, but I collapsed while I was jogging. And actually the COVID was perfect for this because it let me like rest, and I had some problems with like my neck and spine, and I've never had problems like health problems my whole life. And so when we were getting the record together, like we were having some stressful times, and I'm like, I'm going to have a stroke right now if we don't decide the artwork for the record. But exercise kind of like helped me get through some of that.
Did they say what happened to you? Was it like a panic attack, or was it just something where your nerves like seized up or something?
Well, COVID makes you realize a lot of things about your like, I used to jog or ride my bike at 6 a.m. every morning before I go to work, for an hour. And so like I jog at 6 a.m. I drive to work. I work all day. I come home. I do all my like dad kid stuff and dishes and all that stuff. And then from 10 to midnight, I make music every night. And I'm kind of like a structured person. It has to happen. And I was doing that. And then I had this weird like collapse, and it was dark too when I collapsed. And have you heard that band called Wolf Brigade?
Yeah.
They have this song called Hammer Hammer to the Skull. And I swear when I was laying there in the dirt, Hammer to the Skull was playing. And now that song is like burned in my brain as like something bad's going to happen. And you should listen to it. It has like these crazy like AC/DC like gongs in the beginning. So I think it was like a combination of like, I know it's lame to like worry about your rock and roll band, but I want to make something good for the world, not because I think it'll sell or people like me. Like my being wants to have something cool, like that. I'm like, oh, I'm proud of this thing that I made with my buddies. So it was a combination of that, and then like I had to have all these insane tests, like MRIs and CAT scans, and like insane tests. I've never done this before in my life. When they put, have you ever had an MRI? When they put you in the machine, you had one. It sounds like industrial hardcore. It sounds like Skinny Puppy or something. And it was like kind of right.
I was gonna say Neurosis, but yeah,
it does. And it was kind of comforting to me.
Definitely. I was at a Neurosis show, and I was like, I feel like I remember thinking this feels like I'm in an MRI.
Yeah,
right. Totally.
And that was like the only like silver lining of having an MRI, because it was kind of like you have to go in that tube and it sucks.
Yeah.
But eventually, I went to a chiropractor. I'm not a medicine person. I don't go to doctors. I don't do any of this stuff. And bizarrely, my chiropractor turned out to be a rocker too. So he gave me some extra service. It was really funny. Like we were talking bands and I mentioned Botch. And he's like, "Did you just say Botch?" And he's like, "Did we just become best friends?" I go, "I don't know, maybe, dude. You're the only rocker doctor I've ever met." And so I'm sorry, my cat's trying to get on here.
Yeah, we always need to see people's cats.
And so my spine and my neck are really out of place. Like they show you the x-ray of it, and my doctor's like, "See this where your neck is going like this? It should be like this, dude. What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so once I started doing all that, I got better. But there was times where like I was like, it went into the worst time, and we started getting all these shows, and I was like, dudes, if I like fall, like if I like fall on stage when we're playing with Bad Religion, you just got to kind of like, roll me off and shoot me. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Is like, it sounds funny, but it was really scary. Actually, I've never had like, I was getting so dizzy too. I had to leave work a couple times and like leave my car in the city because I couldn't drive home. And it was crazy. Like, so it's like
a go kind of thing.
They thought it was like hemiplegic migraines, where it's like you're triggered, because I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'll say spectrum-y, but I'm like really sensitive to light and sounds and like things. And my brain is like a pinball machine all the time, and between that and the stress of the record, and I'm like the pusher in the band too. I'm like, we got to make a video. We got to do this. We got to do that. And the guys are like, shut up, please. And I don't blame them. And so all these things, and my neck kind of, I think is why like I collapsed, And so, but it's the only health thing I've ever had in my whole life, like a major thing. But it was pretty sketchy. Like, and actually the day that I had to go to our kind of marketing meeting for the record, it was my birthday too. And I could barely like stay up in the meeting. Like I thought I was going to pass out. And I'm like sitting there with all my friends, and they're like, "Are you all right, man?" I'm like, "I think so. We can get through this, but it all worked out." So, and I mean, do you guys sleep very well? Because I learned how bad sleep, if you don't sleep, it's like really bad. And
I'm terrible at sleeping.
You got to fix it. If I was like a 6 hours or less person, like no matter what. And then, because when you start getting fired up about a song too, I'm like, "Ooh, I got to finish this song. It's going to be good." And you stay up and your mind's like rocking, and there's music in our house all the time. Sorry, my cat's driving me crazy. And so you got to find a way to calm your mind, and you got to find a way to sleep. And I found ways to sleep. And actually, I went on this other podcast. It's called Scream Therapy. It was really cool. Like, and I never even talked about any of this stuff in my whole life. And the guy who hosted, I think his name's Jason too. Really nice guy. But he'd had a mental breakdown, and just he was asking me all these questions about my dad, my mom, and all this stuff. I'm like, "Why are you asking all this stuff?" But I started to think for the first time why I was not taking care of my body in a way. And he kind of helped me. Like, it was like one of the best things I've ever done. He was like it was like a therapist interviewing you for a rock and roll podcast. And so I taught myself how to calm down. And even when we're on the road, I'm like, get up, dudes, brush your teeth, let's go. And they're like, oh, please just let me sleep. And I'm like, nope. I'm the guy who drives. I'm the guy who does the interview. I load the gear. I get us up in the morning. And then the dudes always told me something's going to pop. And it did. And they were right. And I was wrong, you know?
My wife was trying to get me to, she noticed I'm like, Sam, I'm not sleeping very well. She noticed I'm, at night, I'm like putting myself to sleep to, playing some irritating game or trying to read some, a history of biography that's very crazy or whatever. And turned out she works for a software company and they paid for during COVID, they paid for a subscription to this website called Headspace.
Oh yeah.
And she kept trying to get me to check it out. And I finally used it the other night and it was just kind of amazing. And it wasn't like the music or the background. It was just somebody with like a real soft, tone of voice talking about the waves or the ocean or kind of putting you in this sort of centered, place where you're not thinking about, politics or strife or stress at work or whatever else. You're just like, I'm going to be okay now. And I had the best sleep after that. It was kind of amazing.
YouTube has some stuff like that too.
Both Dan and Mac have been doing some real cool things with the PRSL mental health initiative and some of the, the positive like affirmations that you guys have been posting. Man, those have been so good. And I read some of those things and it's just uplifting to my soul. And I feel like when I get in that place, it's one of those things where once I've experienced that, or I've reached that level or that plateau or whatever you want to call it, the rest of the day generally kicks ass. And even if I, encounter hardships like we all do throughout the day, like I've noticed if I have that early start, that things generally go better. So anyway,
thanks for saying that. That means means the world. Dan, I mean that's kind of all Dan, and I don't know how I'd get through the day without his post either. But we are actually just passing an hour, so we should probably get this wrapped up. I feel like we could probably sit here for another hour.
Yes, I could talk.
No, you're fine.
No, good.
Fine.
This has been amazing. This has been amazing. I'm not mad. I'm getting a text from Rob like, hey Mac, it's an hour. I'm like, oh, okay.
Get this guy out of here.
So we always kind of end it on a positive note. We always like to end it by going around the circle asking what it is that you're listening to right now or reading or watching, anything that you think somebody else needs to be aware exists. That's been kind of getting you through the days. So I will start with Dan since he say I'm wrong every time since he knows that question's coming.
Well, first off, thank you, Jason, for all the wonderful recommendations. I have every single band you have mentioned today up on a Bandcamp on a separate tab. Necrod, Kiss, everything, just ready to go to like relax tomorrow and just kind of like dive deep into new music. So thank you for that.
Yeah, all right.
I'm looking forward to that. My recommendation today, which is really odd that it was even released, and I think it was under the radar, but Hot Water Music just released a cover a day ago. That is Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
And it's phenomenal. And I have no clue if there's like they just decided, hey, let's do something under quarantine. Like I couldn't find any backstory. Like Cresswell posted it on his Instagram story and Chuck and everyone, and I was like, all right, well, you brought in, forgot what's his name from Real Big Fish for the saxophone and the horns, and I was like, all right, this isn't the usual, but I'm loving it, like a distortion jazz song. So
nice. I'm excited to check that out. I'm sure most of you know by now, but War on Women released a new record just last week called Wonderful Hell. It has been my therapy and it's been super, super important. So definitely check that out if you need something to scream to. Also, Frail Bray.
All right.
If you haven't yet, it's been a couple of months. If you haven't yet, just listen to both of those records, like front to back in order.
Did you hear the lady? I don't know. I've never met them, but the singer woman, have you watched 2 Minutes to Late Night? You know that it's like they do those covers.
I haven't yet. I haven't watched that.
Usually, well, they did a talk show a few years ago, but they do these covers now. They call them like bedroom covers or whatever. But that lady sang a Van Halen song, and her voice is so fantastic.
Oh,
It
I
was
bet
just
she killed
really.
it.
You should watch it. It's pretty funny. It's like, it's funny when you see people like, oh, they're just in a punk band, but I was like, oh man, this lady can really sing. Like, there's a couple
Yeah.
people I've come across over the years. I'm like, whoa, they're not just like in a punk band. They can, like Jack from Toy Guitar, like he can
Oh,
really sing. And I know that's not a secret, but it's like he can sing better than you too. He can sing better than it's weird that you know these people, but I'm like, damn. And so the One Woman person, damn, she can really sing.
Yeah, and she's kind of
Yeah.
one of those ones. Her presence to me is sort of, it's reminiscent of like Dennis Lixon, where you're just kind of there, and they're just glowing, and
Yeah,
it's
she
just,
seems
you're like,
positive and fun.
I'm just gonna fawn over you no matter what. And it's like
Yeah.
the two people who I'm always nervous around are like those two people.
Yeah.
But all right, so what about you? What's getting you through the day right now? Whether it's music or a book or
It's always music. I'm always listening to records. I just turned my top 10 into Vanessa. I'll tell you a couple that are on there. Sorry, one sec. Sturgill Simpson's my number one. I mentioned that. Let's see. I like the old 97s. I listen to like a lot of like intense like black metal and death metal too. And so there's one band I like called Spirit Possession. And I know that's not like soothing for everyone, but that's something that I I hear a lot of metal records, and metal is awesome because it's like this thriving world, and every week there's awesome releases. And that's one that I've heard recently. It's like, damn, this is pretty good. This is something different. And there's lots of good black metal labels in the Bay Area too, so I kind of follow them closely. My favorite is this label called Sentient Ruin. But that's my favorite. I'm just looking down my Spotify. I like the Tom Petty, the Wildflowers extra record that came out. The new Idols I like. Do you know that band Idols?
Yeah, that was a great record.
Oh, that record's so good. And they're like, this is going to sound so rude, but they're like modern, catchy Jesus Lizard. And the people that like Jesus Lizard, and I tell them, they're like so offended. I'm like, it's okay. They just did what they did, but now it's like has choruses and melodies, and it's really interesting and socially conscious. And I love that, and his accent is so thick and cool. It's awesome. That's like, I could tell you 100 records by now, but those are just a few. I have been reading, oddly enough, The People's History of the United States. And I know that's weird to say, but during COVID, like my little daughter, she's an extrovert. And so and I'm not a beach person, but we live near a beach. And it's like, we should probably go to that beach, right? Because I don't like sand. But so we started going to the beach, and I started reading my book while she was, surfing or whatever. And it is shocking. If you don't think there's systemic racism or there's income inequality, you don't know the history of the United States. And I know I'm not supposed to be political, but
yeah,
from day one, it is set up to disadvantage people, and whether that's poor people or people of color. And I was like, and it's not like somebody's opinion. There's like real things like this, Ichabod went to the pub and talked to this guy. I'm like, there's a quote right here about them trying to, only have rich landowners vote. You know what I mean? It's like, I was like, damn, it's crazy, the parallels to today. So I read that, and I don't know if you've seen, have you ever watched The Untold History of the United States by Oliver Stone?
Yes, I have.
I haven't seen that.
It's the same way how people would say, oh, how did we get into the Iraq War? And somebody nowadays would go like, oh, it's because, these dudes bombed the World Trade Center. And I'm like, those are unrelated, but you wouldn't know, but the press would make you think it's that. They do that for all eras of history. We're like, damn, I don't know this because it's not in my context or my time. And these are the real stories. They're like, actually, we wanted to take over Iraq so we could get their oil, and their guy was a bummer. It had nothing to do with the World Trade Center. That's different, but you wouldn't know that unless you lived through it. And so since I didn't live through like World War II, that show goes through every scandal and kind of shows you what it was like, where like we didn't have to drop a bomb on Japan, like not at all. It was done, but we did, and we murdered millions, thousands of people. And it's just like wild to think about. It's so scary. And anyway, sorry, not political, but
No. We are always anti-racist.
One good thing I'll tell you though, like you mentioned that Headspace thing on YouTube, you can watch these videos. It's called Slow TV. Have you ever watched it? It's like it's the most famous one is this train that goes from Bergen to Oslo in Norway.
Okay.
It's called Train to Bergen, and it's just this train ride, and it's 8 hours, and you're getting on the train, and you're like, this is crazy, and you will be asleep in like a minute. And when my little daughter's like, her head is like a pinball like mine, and so I put on Train to Bergen, bam, she's out. But it's just like watching The Fireplace with the Logs, but it's the best one, I think. It's a good one. But there's all these slow TV things, and if you have trouble sleeping, you put that on, you will be gone in a second. It works.
Yeah, I've been really into finding stuff like that.
I know we're out of time, but I'll be real quick.
No, Landon, we always got time for you, Leland.
I've been trying to listen to positive stuff, and as much as my whole day, like, soundtrack wise, like, you guys are gonna laugh at me, but I was a huge fan of Gerard Way and his comic books for the Umbrella Academy. They turned that into a show, and whoever picked the soundtrack for the 2 seasons of that show,
so good.
It's epic.
It's so good. I feel like I wrote it and wasn't aware that they signed me up for it.
It's punk. It's like there's everything on there. So I've been playing a
Stranglers.
little bit.
They had Irma Thomas this season.
Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
playing a little bit.
Sorry, I just lost my mind when you said that.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. They have like a list or something. I don't know if it's on Spotify or where it is, but it lists every song and where it is in the show, and it's just that soundtrack just keeps me going all day long. And then I've been listening to the Barstool Preachers because I absolutely love those guys, and they're so positive. And what they do. And you guys are gonna laugh at me, but I was cleaning out my garage the other day, and I had this pile of T-shirts and junk, and I lifted it up too high, and there was like a pen and some pennies that fell out of there. And I swear to God, the CD that came sliding out of the bottom of there was the Avail record, Over the James.
Yeah.
I have not heard that record in so long.
It's
so
really good.
And I have not been able to take it off since. So anyway, that's my
when Fat signed Avail. I don't know if Mike had heard them that much. I had to skateboard to the store to buy the CD and bring it back to the office so he could hear it.
That's all.
Because people in our office were like, sign him. And he's like, I haven't heard him. How do we fix this? And this was before you could like get anything. I'm like, I'll go to the record store and get it for us.
Right. That's so awesome. And
God, those are the days.
My buds in another Bay Area band, United Defiance, just released a new single called Empty Advice, and it's really cool. So check it out. If you...
For sure. Absolutely. Nice. All right, guys. So that's going to conclude our Wednesday, so we can let you all go get your dinner or go to sleep, or depending on whatever part of the country you're in, finish out your evening. Just want to say we love every single one of you. Let your friends know that you love them, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye, guys.